Hello everyone and welcome to my YouTube channel again. My name is Emmanuel Itoje and today I'll be walking us through how to add custom domain to Microsoft 365 tenant. So what are we going to look at today? So the outlines are as follow. The first thing we're going to look at what is a domain name. We're going to look at is it possible to connect a domain with personal or family offering or just with the business account. Then again we'll be looking at can I add custom subdomains or multiple domains to M365. Then why do I have an on Microsoft.com domain in the first place. Then we'll be jumping into the demo. So without wasting time, let's jump in. So we're looking at summary too. So what is a domain name? So a domain is a unique name that appears after the @ sign in email addresses and after the www dot in web addresses. So it's typically take the form of your organization name and a standard internet surface such as yourbusiness.com. It could be .net, it could be .org. Then it actually helps you to build credibility and recognition for your brand. So if you have an organization, let's say the name of an organization is Google for example, so you want to actually purchase a domain, maybe google.com or google.net, whichever the case will be. So the next question we want to look at is it possible to connect a domain with personal or family offering? So at the moment Microsoft only supports connecting domain with that is managed by GoDaddy with Outlook.com. So if your domain is not actually managed by GoDaddy.com, it is not possible for you to actually connect the domain with your family account or your personal account. So the next question we want to look at is can I add a custom subdomain or multiple subdomain to Microsoft 365? And the answer to that is yes. And to add subdomains, you must actually manage your own DNS settings at your registrar. So what does that mean? If you don't have access to manage your own DNS settings as a registrar, you will not actually be able to manage add subdomains. So if you bought your domains, for example, from Microsoft, you can also add subdomains. So for users for organization, they're thinking of buying the domains from Microsoft, just know that you'll not be able to add subdomains to your Microsoft 365 tenants. So the next question we want to look at is why do I have the on Microsoft.com domain in the first place? So basically Microsoft needs to actually keep the on Microsoft.com domain because it is used behind the scene for your subscription. So the moment you set up your subscription, your Microsoft 365 tenant or your account, what happens is that the subscription is provisioned with what we call .on Microsoft domain. Even Microsoft domain itself is actually Microsoft tenant is actually Microsoft.on Microsoft domain because that is actually what is being used to actually manage your tenant, your subscription behind the scene. So if you have an issue with your subscription, for example, and you reach out to the to Microsoft support, what they will use to actually troubleshoot the issue is not the custom domain that you added yourself. Rather, they will use the on Microsoft domain, and this on Microsoft domain, it could make it to be the default domain in your tenant, or you could make your custom domain to be the default in your tenant. Again, you can't remove your on Microsoft.com domain. So this is a product limitation. So because like I said from the first point, Microsoft uses it to actually manage your subscription behind the scene. They can't use your custom domain that you had, because that you can actually remove at any time that you feel like you don't want to use. Maybe your business name has changed or something. Then the last layer, you can replace your on Microsoft.com domain after sign up actually. So Microsoft provided that possibility for us to actually replace the on Microsoft.com domain after you after changing. Maybe you change the name of your organizations, you want to change your Microsoft.com domain, you can change it. It's very possible. So let's jump into a demo without wasting further time. Alright, so I'm currently signing into office.com. So if you want to sign into your Microsoft 365 tenant, just go to office.com and you sign in using your global admin or any of the admin accounts. And basically you must note that it is only a global admin that can actually manage a domain for an organization. So either the global admin, the initial admin that was created when you set up the tenant initially, or you create another global admin in the organization. So that's actually the person that can manage domain at the moment, either by adding the domain, by removing the domain. So we'll go into our admin center by clicking on this admin tiles here. So this will take us to the admin center, and where we are going is our settings. We click on show all so we can have the option for settings. So we click on settings here. So from settings we click on domain. So here we can see that the only domain I have is zvtjo.onmicrosoft.com, which is actually the default domain that was given to me by Microsoft when I set up the tenant. And like I said earlier on, this domain, you cannot remove this domain, but you can actually replace the domain. So what we are doing in this demo is to actually add a custom domain. Now, how do you get your custom domain? You can basically get a domain from any domain registrar of your choice. Name it, it could be from GoDaddy, it could be from Namecheap and the likes. So after getting your domain from them, you actually have an account with them that you can use to manage your domain, just the way you can manage your Microsoft 365 tenant. You're going to sign in into your domain registrar portal with the account that you created while you're purchasing the domain, and from then you'll be able to manage the domain. So I'm going to, for this demo, I purchased some domain from Microsoft Azure itself. We'll call them app service domain. So those are the domains we're going to use for this practice. So I'm going into my Azure tenant. So I sign into portal.azure.com. Then I need to go to my app service domain, or you can either type, if you don't have it there, you can just type app service domain. App service domain. So on the services, you'll see app service domain here. So these are list of all the domains I have currently in my Azure, and the domain I would like to add for this demo is this mycloudonline.org. So let me click on mycloudonline.org. I know that name sounds funny, but that's the domain we'll be using for this demo. So I'm going to go back to my Microsoft 365 admin center to add a domain. So I'll click on add domain. So I'll type mycloudonline.org. mycloudonline.org. All right, that's correct. So after typing that, I'll click on use this domain. So it's going to load for us the first record that we need to add. So the first record is actually the record to actually verify if we own this domain. So it's going to give us different option. Okay, verify you own this domain. Is it by adding a TST record to the domain DNS record, or if you can't add a TST record, the second option, add an MX record. So you can either add a TST record or add an MS record. Then if you have, maybe for example now you already set up a website with your domain, what you can do is that you can actually add a TST file. But for this domain, I don't have a website with it, so I'm going to go with add a TST record. Note, you can actually pick any of those two records. If you cannot add TST record, you can add an MX record. So I'll click on continue. So what this is going to do for me is going to give me a TST value here, TST name and the TTL. So what I need is to copy the TST value. Either I highlight and use Ctrl+C. I just click on this copy here. It's going to copy the record for me. I know my TXT name is @ and my TTL is 3600 seconds. So this record, I need to actually put it in my domain registrar, and in my case is Microsoft Azure, because it's telling me that we detected that your DNS hosting provider is Azure here. So I can change it if I feel like that's not actually where I actually purchased the domain. So I've copied the TST record again. Then I'll go back to my Azure. So on the Azure here, so this is the same thing for every domain registrar. What you need to look for is to either you look for advanced DNS management or manage DNS record. So I'm going to click on manage DNS record. Okay, I don't know what's happening to my internet, but all right. So At this manage DNS record, so you see the option to add DNS. In my case is record set, so I'm going to click on record set here. So the first record I'm going to have to remember is actually a TST value. Is a TST record I'm adding. So at this point I'm going to look for what is the record type here. I currently have a record. I can click on the drop down here and look for TST. So I select TST there. So the TTL is actually 1 hour, which is equivalent to 3,600 seconds. So I'm going to leave that. The value I copied, I'm going to paste it here. Then what I will do here is to put the TST name. The TST name, which is at the value of copy. The TTL, this is in seconds here. So I'll put at here. So it's going to confirm the record set for me. Then I'll click on OK. So it's going to basically create the record for me, which the record has been created. So once this record has been created, I can now go back to my Microsoft 365 Admin Center. I can refresh or just click on verify here. Note, if I do not add those record before clicking on verify button here, it's not going to take me to this page. Rather, it's going to throw me an error. Now it's telling me now. So yes, it has verified that I actually owns the domain. So the next thing it's going to do for me right now is going to actually ask how do I want to connect my domain. So you can either click on this to learn about DNS record, or you want to add your own DNS record, or you can click on more option. For you, okay, you want to skip it and do it later, which is not actually recommended. So by default, I want to add my DNS record. So I'll click on continue here. Once I click on continue, it's going to bring out some record that I should add. Like this, they say add your DNS record. So it's still pointing to Azure. So you can just read through this to start routing your emails and all that. So it gives me it's giving me three important record here. The MX record, which is actually responsible for my emails. So if this record is not there and I'm using this custom domain for my users, that means the users will not be able to receive emails from external they will not be able to receive from emails from external users. They can only receive emails internally. The C name here is majorly for identity, that's auto discover. If I want to set up my Outlook application, for example, and I want the Outlook client application to detect my emails automatically, the C name is actually responsible for that. Then the TSD record is more or less for protection, security, like the SPF. It's something we're going to talk about in future video. So I'm going to start with the MX record. So the host name is important, the pointing address, the priority, and the TTL. So I'm going to copy. What I need to copy is this, because I can easily remember the rest. So I'll copy the point to address. Then I'll go back again to my DNS provider, my registrar. So I'm going to add another record set here. So for this time around, I'm selecting the MX record. So the TTL is there for me by default. Then I'm going to paste what I copied, which is the pointer address. The preference here, I put it at 0. Then for the name, I'm putting it at, because that's actually the same thing that I have here. I have the host name as hat, the point to address or the value, the priority is 0, then the TTL is 1. So I need to ensure that they're the same. The host name, the name is actually in that host name. The record type is the MX record. The TTL, the 3000 you're seeing, is equivalent to the 1 hour here. Or if I want to change it to seconds here, I can change it and put 3600. Alright, then I'll click on OK. So it's going to create that particular record set for me. So I have the record set created here. So the next record set, I will go back to see the next thing I'm going to need. So I actually need to add a TST record. Remember, we added a first TST record. That's actually to verify if we actually own the domain. What the TST record here is actually for the protection. So what I can simply do is to copy this record. So the TST name remains at, then the TTL is to 1 hour. So I will go back to my domain registrar to add another record set. I'll click on add record set here. But this time around, I can either choose to add another TST record. But the problem is that you can only have one TST record on. You can only have one TST record per tenant. So what I would do is to actually close this out. I'll say okay. Then the TST record I already have here, I'll just click on the 3 dot here to either delete it, or I can simply edit the record. Let me double click on it to edit the record. So since I already have this, so I can change this to seconds, change this to 3600 seconds. So this record that I have here, value, I'm going to delete this. Then I'm going to paste the new value there, and I'll click on save. Alright, that has been saved. So I can go back to the app service domain, click on manage record. So I have one more record to add. So while that is loading, let me go pick the last record, which is actually my CNAME record. So this time around, the host name is autodiscover, while the point to address of value is autodiscover.outlook.com. So the TTL remains 1. So I'm going to copy this. Then I'll go back to my domain registrar, which is my Azure. I'll create a record set. This time around, I'm selecting a CNAME. I'm selecting a CNAME, right? Then do I need an alias? No, I don't need an alias. So here I'll type in auto discover. Okay, it's searching for that. So I'll paste in the autodiscover.outlook.com. So the same thing, I can change it to seconds, and I'll have to change this value to 3600. Then I'll click on OK. So once all the records has been added, then what we need to do, so that's successful, so I can refresh to allow the records to actually populate. After refreshing, I can now go back to my Microsoft 365 Admin Center and click on continue. So sometimes it takes between 5 minutes to 48 hours depending on your domain registrar for those records to be populated, because the record needs to actually sync across servers. So let me see, it's still checking if the record, so because the record has actually populated, it was very fast for me for Azure, so that my domain is set up. So I can now click on set, click on done here. So I should see my domain added too. So automatically, it's because it's a custom domain, it's automatically changed my custom domain from the zvtjho.microsoft.com to the new domain I just added. So if any of the record is actually having an issue, it's not going to show LD, and once this is not showing LD for me, it means that I need to check and troubleshoot. For example, if users complain that they're not receiving emails, one of the things to check is a license, and you come to the domain registrar here to the domain here to confirm if any of the domains having issue, because basically if any of the domain is having issue, it's going to put like a mark to show that this particular domain is having issue. But everything is good, so we are actually good to go. So this is actually how you can add your custom domain to Microsoft 365 tenants, and you can use the custom domain. For example, if I go to users and I go to active users, for example, I can decide that okay, this particular user that I'm signing here, that I'm using the Microsoft domain. Okay, let me just pick any user, a random user. Let me pick this user that is a member of this tenant, for example. So I can easily change the UPN suffix, which is the domain. I can click on manage user name and email. then click on edit. For here, I just click on the domain, drop down, select the new domain I just added, then click on done. So I need to inform this user that, oh, your user email address have changed, but your password remains the same. So I'll just provide this new username, click on save changes. So I'll provide the new username to the user that, oh, this is your new username because the company has added the custom domain. So the quick the quick summary of everything we did, we went through what a domain is and why we have the on Microsoft domain. Then we went into how we can add our TXT, the first TXT record, to actually verify if we own the domain. Then from there we added the CNAME record, the MX record, which is responsible for the email itself, the CNAME for the auto discover, that is identity, then the TXT for the email security. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.